This was like the first movie that established an ensemble to like fight the bad guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. I love asking this question during the screening series. Who's seeing this for the first time tonight on the big screen? You've just sat
It's
through.
like half the room.
Isn't that amazing? See, this is what I was telling Andre. I was like, we're screening the series and these classic films, and so many people are getting to see this, these films for the first time on a screen like this. I mean, I remember seeing Seven Samurai, and it wasn't, I think it was on a horrible TV at the time. So, let's talk about the first time you saw it and how did it impact you as a filmmaker? I mean, obviously, probably the first time you saw it, you weren't a filmmaker at the time, right? But take me through that.
No, first of all, hello, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good evening. Thanks for coming out. Actually, I was a film student when I first saw it. So I went to NYU, and I saw it in in a film theory class. It was like the first time. It was David Rangeli's class. I remember. It's like you normally go there to go to sleep, to like get some rest, because everybody was working hard writing scripts and making movies and stuff like that. But this movie, I mean, it's 3 hours 27 minutes, and you don't feel that. And for me, I'm the audience for long. I love long movies. I can never drag my wife out to them, but Lord of the Rings, like that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I'll sign me up. I want to see a very long film. And it only feels long if there's like multiple endings, and it's like, when is this thing going to end already? But not this movie. Like, this is a very simple premise and just a very simple story, and its structure, and just every shot is just this kind of beautiful tapestry. So just as a film nerd, it was just right up my alley, when I first saw it, and I've since stolen multiple things from it over time.
I mean, I'm glad you're confessing that, because I think you're not the first filmmaker to confess that, because this film has been so influential to Hollywood filmmakers. Spielberg, Tarantino, George Lucas has all said it. Talk about why. What was the impact on filmmakers?
I mean, this is 1954. People don't. Yeah, people aren't paying attention to the degree of difficulty. Are there a lot of filmmakers in the room? Okay, so that's a good number. I mean, we are in LA. And the degree of difficulty of what Kurosawa did for this film in 1954, cannot be overstated. And the shot composition, the symmetry of the shots, just everything about it, the shadows. I mean, for my film, The Dutchman, for instance, this was sort of one of the first films that you really see weather as like a character in the story. Every shot has something, just whether it's rain, whether it's a clear sky that shot through the trees that everybody has seen in multiple movies. Just some mist, something that's always moving, in the frame. And it's really just enchanting to watch. And so I just was enthralled by it, the first time seeing it. I mean, I was already a fan of his from Rashomon and his other films, that came out before this masterpiece. Those were also masterpieces in their own right.
And we were also talking about it, people have described it as the first Avengers movie, really, if you think about it. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, this was the first movie that established an ensemble to fight the bad guys, sort of rounding up a bunch of heroes to come together to actually defeat a villain. And what's interesting is about the film is that you don't actually see the villain very much. You see them kind of at the beginning, and then obviously at the end. But that Kurosawa is really credited with that. I mean, he's frankly credited with the dawn of the Western. Like spaghetti westerns really didn't, frankly, exist prior to him making this movie, and he established this action in this film. It's like through character and drama that you just kind of don't have anymore. Like everything we have mostly when you're talking about action is like super explosions and things like that. But we spent a whole hour just learning about who these people are, and you really feel for them. When the end comes.
I think to your point, like that's one of the great things about this film, and like I heard some of you gasp when Andre said it was like 3 hours 32, because you don't feel that. Like that first hour, you're so invested in like where is he going with this? Oh, he's building these characters so that there's so much humanity to this film that I think he's actually been titled. They've called him like one of the greatest editors, too, because of how he builds us all up, and then at the end, like, with the final battle, like, we're so invested. And, talk a little bit about his editing style and the impact.
Well, he sort of famously said, I'd kind of edit myself into a corner and and force the editors to, like, pull me out of it. But he was a lot of people don't give him as much credit as he deserves as a writer. That's where he always believed that's when you start directing, is when you can actually, sit down on the blank page and really visualize your thoughts in a way that is easy to convey to your crew and easy for the audience to understand. Like that's the real essence of a story. It was just a master class in craftsmanship at the end of the day. I mean, that's just why it's so ripped off all the time. I mean, in a good way. Like artists, steal or borrow on purpose. But that's really. I mean, you can borrow something from this movie for an entire directorial career, and still not reach the heights that it did. There's just so many bits and pieces and new things that you're going to discover every time you watch it, especially with, it being 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point of like borrowing, like, I mean, Star Wars would be very different. And George Lucas has said this if he didn't have Kurosawa and Seven Samurai. Is there a scene in this film that has really impacted you, or like one that's just stuck? I mean, the whole film really sticks with you, but like one that's really like struck you and influenced your films.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was just sort of piggyback off of that about Lucas, is that like Star Wars New Hope is largely influenced by Hidden Fortress, which is another Kurosawa movie, and which is largely focused on like the two most mundane characters that you're following and telling the story through the lens, which in the case of George Lucas would be C-3PO and R2-D2, and but Darth Vader was influenced by Seven Samurai. You can see that influence there. I feel like, I mean, gosh, it's really hard to like pick any scene. I mean, probably one of the most striking scenes always that sits with me is the first time that we meet Kimbe, and then he shaves his head to go and save the kid from that bandit, and you never see the murder, or you never see him killed. He's killed inside the hut, but then when he exits, it even now you don't realize that whole shot is in slow motion because of just the camera angles and just sort of how Kurosawa is so focused on the emotion of the action that's actually happening there. Like what's interesting about Kurosawa to me was always the fact that he focused on the consequences of the action as opposed to the action itself. So a lot of his shots you'll see. I mean, even the case with the battle, like there's a lot of focus on the trampling of the horses onto the ground, you're really focused more on after a character that you love is actually hurt or killed. He'll shoot the ground that they're going to land on before you actually just focusing on them falling, and that heightens the emotion for everything that's happening in the film. And he just does that with just such ease. It's really incredible.
You've seen this several times. How has each viewing experience changed for you? From like that first time you watched it as a film student, to like, I mean, even just watching like what we watched the last 10 minutes.
I would consider myself successful when I get my children to sit through this movie. I probably do a once a year viewing of this film, just again for ideas. It's just such this incredible tapestry of art that it's hard not to try to find something from it that you can use, or that's just sort of attractive in ways, providing an homage to it itself. So that's what's cool about it, is that there's just something different every time you see it. And again, it just has to do with the mastery of the filmmaker, because he's pulling the camera back. It's also like the birth of the action film, but through the lens of characters, and you pull the camera back and actually see the action that's occurring, and the consequences of the action is what he's actually shooting. And that, by virtue of that wide angle, you're able to see things that you just haven't seen before. He never has anything not moving in the background, for any of the shots that he's focused on the foreground. I mean, it's a lot of those types of details. Just as a filmmaker, and to think that he's able to execute that in 1954, before digital cameras and before any of the stuff that we take for granted now. That's just what's so amazing, to actually see what's happening. I remember Scorsese was talking about his influence, and Scorsese was actually in a Kurosawa film in 1990 called Dreams. It's about this Japanese artist, and the Japanese artist actually steps into like a Van Gogh painting. Scorsese plays Van Gogh, plays Vincent Van Gogh. He's got this beard on and everything. And he's got the whole, he's doing it in this like New York accent. And he's like in a field, and he's got the whole thing on because of the ear is gone and stuff. And I remember something about him saying that, because he was acting in it, that he said the words wrong. And he was trying to figure out, well, do I ask for another take? Like, is it appropriate for an actor to ask the director, like, for another take? But Kurosawa was ready to move on, but Scorsese was directing himself. He wasn't ready to move on. And so he ends up doing like another take, and then, realizes, when the director says it's time to move on, just go ahead. Like, you did what you need to do. So it was, and so you have these two masters, one working on the other person's project. And so for me, like, that's just catnip. It's just great to see those types of things and all those stories kind of converge with each other.
I didn't know that Scorsese story. Like, now I want to go back and watch.
You got to check it out.
There you go. Well, to that, like, where can we see Kurosawa's influences in, in your incredible body of work, either as a producer or a director?
So my film, The Dutchman, premiered at South by Southwest earlier this year in March. It's Andre Holland, Kate Mara, Zazie Beetz, Aldous Hodge. And we sold the film. We can't say, I can't say to whom yet, but we'll be in theaters, hopefully soon. And, again, for that film, which was also based on a historic play from 1964, written by an Obie Award-winning playwright named Amiri Baraka, at the time Leroy Jones. one of the main influences again was just the use of weather. So in Dutchman, the rain is very much a character in the story, and I can say that was a direct influence from Kurosawa and his work. Not exclusively Seven Samurai, but just sort of his body of work, and using that to kind of heighten and expand and push the emotion along in the story and the arc of the story. And it also just looks good on camera. It's like just wet down everything. It looks way better on camera.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I can't wait to see the Dutchman, especially like Rain as a character, especially like, yeah. I mean, you can't control weather, but film. Yeah. Technology's changed now in filmmaking, so.
Well, it was raining for real too in New York, which actually pushed the rain further up in the script than I had written because of just the weather we had to deal with. And it's like, well, we're not changing the whole day, for the rain. We'll just shoot around the rain, and now the rain is just kind of part of the whole story. So there was a point in which it was deliberately kind of coming in, and it ended up coming in a little bit earlier in the story.
It makes you wonder what Kurosawa had to deal with Seven Samurai, because that was definitely not a short shoot.
No, it was a year. It was almost a year. This movie took from, what was it, like I think it was like May of 53 to like March of 54. Like it almost took a year. I mean, this was dealing with constant weather issues, rewrites and reshoots, just a barrage of issues, and yeah. But I think like from that struggle comes great stories. Like I get nervous about the day that a shoot just goes perfectly smoothly. I'm not sure what type of film that is. Probably one that stinks, but
The filmmakers in this room can relate to that.
Yeah, very
so
much. Yeah.
I mean, aside from weather being a character, the sound of this film in the 1950s, and like even that score, that really adds to everything that makes this such a great film. Like, talk about those two elements.
Yeah, it's such an important component. I mean, as a matter of fact, like movies, I was taught are sound first, and then picture. And I remember a professor of mine back in school was just like, to prove it, like, go to a movie theater, and if the picture goes out, but you can still hear it, like, everybody stays. But if the sound goes out and you're watching a picture where there's no sound, it's like people will go batshit. They'll start eating each other. And that's true. I've been in those scenarios where it's like, I can't hear. What's the sound? What's going on? People getting up to start talking to the projectionist or anything. And so that is the primary, element or asset that he's actually like working with here, especially with the wide shots that he's doing and these long shots that he's doing. The first time meeting the bandits and they're just sort of moving around this hill. I mean, like, in the moments of silence that he actually has in the film. It's again, it's just like, it's an actual masterpiece, and you're actually able to dissect it after all these years.
I mean, you can dissect every single scene, every single frame, because it is, to your point, such a masterpiece. You can't tell us yet when The Dutchman is out yet.
No, not yet, because I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we're probably planning top of next year. Yeah, I think we're probably planning the top of next year. We're opening the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. That's August 1st. And so, yeah, we've been just on this kind of wonderful tour of festivals and screenings and things like that, and Q&As like this, and having an opportunity to really talk about some of the historic context behind it and why it makes so much sense now as a modern piece. And Seven Samurai is just one of those perfect examples of a timeless piece of art that just continually gets kind of better and better the more that you look at it and the more that you analyze it at the end of the day.
Well, I hope that your kids will sit through it one day. I manifest
I'm going to get
that
them, yeah.
for you.
I'm working on my oldest one right now.
Andre, I want to say thank you so much for that insight. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight and watching Seven Samurai and joining us for this screening series. And I hope you enjoyed that. And thank you to the team at Variety and to Barco and, of course, Soho House. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great night.